Have you ever been preparing for a Pokemon event? Maybe a local, a regional, or even an event as important as the international championships? And you feel a bit lost. Like no matter what you do, you can't climb in rank. You're making no progress. You're starting to feel worried, frustrated, or even a little bit sad that you're wasting time or will never succeed at VGC. If this feels like you, don't worry. I have 5 tips that I'm willing to put 100% guarantee on. If you apply these 5 tips, you will improve. I'm so confident in these 5 tips that if you do not improve with 1 month of applying these tips that I teach you, I'll permanently delete my YouTube channel. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video as I give you a bonus tip that's arguably the most important tip of the video. Starting at number 5, I want you to study film. Film study is very important. Professional athletes spend just as much time studying film as they do practicing, for example. I have a very good example from my recent draft match. I ended up getting in a bad position in game 1, but I managed to claw back and capitalize on a key mistake my opponent made to win. This is the example of the mistake I'm making. I could go into Pelipper right here with the Rocky Helmet and kill the Urshifu, but I instead decided to go into my Sylveon. This results in my Sylveon getting KO'd, and getting no value at all, instead of me getting a KO. I take advantage of this key swap out right here, which was a huge mistake, netting me value, but in reality, I didn't have to make this play at all. I could have very simply been further ahead in the game had I just swapped my Pelipper in. In my brain, I thought, wow, what a game. I was able to come back and win that game. That was impressive. But when I watched the film, I was shocked. I made 2 plays on turn 1 and turn 2 that absolutely just costed me to be in that position in the first place. But why did it take me watching film to see this? You see, during the game, your brain is processing several things at once. You have the pressure of the board state, for example. The turn timer making you make really hard decisions under the stress of a time limit to run out. And you're usually facing a potential puzzle to solve from turn 1. When you watch film, you are calm in an environment where your brain is relaxed and able to focus on processing the information on the film. This creates muscle memory, and your brain will be able to memorize these key mistakes once they have processed them in film study. So once you're in a similar situation in future games, your brain will process this correctly and quickly, which will optimize your overall gameplay. Coming in at number 4 is practice quality over quantity. I know, we're all guilty of playing game after game of Showdown. It's addicting and fast paced. But what if I told you playing less games could actually be better for you? If you aren't practicing correctly, you're essentially wasting time. Don't worry though, I did the same thing. Pokemon Showdown is arguably one of the most important tools you have available to you. But with this approach, I ensure you will see your rating go up and the quality of your matches will improve. I have some homework for you. I know, homework stinks. I'm sorry, but it will help you. I want you to play 50 Showdown matches. I want you to turn the timer on immediately when the match starts. And I want you to practice thinking through every single move as if you would win a regional by making the next play. I know, this adds time to your matches, but I want you to improve, and when you slow the pace of the game down, you're able to train your critical thinking skills more, improving your overall quality of gameplay. Come back to this video in a few weeks and let me know in the comments how the homework affected your game quality and if you noticed a difference. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Number 3 is to like this video. Hold on, whoa. How did that tip get in here? That's definitely a mistake. Let me fix that real quick. All right, this should be better. The real number 3 is create your own EV spreads. Now, this is a huge deal. The most common thing I hear when a team succeeds is, what are the spreads? While knowing these spreads are valuable in order to counter them, you should try to create your own spreads. I know it could be intimidating, but knowing your Pokemon will live an important hit, or if it will pick up a crucial KO, is a matter of winning and losing. I'm going to teach you some basics to start with, and I want you to use them as a starting point to build your own spreads so you can understand your teams to the fullest. As I hop over to Pokemon Showdown, I've made a couple EV spreads, and I want to explain why it's very valuable to understand how to do this, at least at a basic level. Disclaimer, I'm not saying I'm like the best EV spread maker or anything like that, but I know it can be intimidating or daunting, and like everyone just asks, oh, what are the spreads? But if you don't understand them, then they really don't help you if you have the spreads, to be honest, because you don't know the situations. For example, there's certain spreads on these Pokemon that are here so you don't have to waste your Terra type. But yet, if you didn't know that, you're clicking Terra anyway, and you waste your Terra, you might lose the battle anyway, and then the spreads don't really help you. I'm going to explain these so that way, hopefully, you guys can get a baseline understanding of when the decision making comes in EV spreads. So here's 3 different flutters. I made 3 different flutters on purpose to show you guys just the depth of EVs in a way. So this first one is a choice specs, right? And really the first thing you need to identify is, what do I want this Pokemon to do? So this flutter main on this team, if it was going like this, wants to do massive damage. It just wants to do damage. Choice specs gives you the 1.5 times boost. So on the EVs, what I chose to do is go a little bit more bulky on the HP stat. You can invest more in defense here, but this spread should live, the sucker punch. 36 special attack is really low, but you really don't need it. Now, there's certain damage calculations, like for example, at Charlotte Regionals, I actually creeped this up to 60 because I could 2-hit KO the Ogerpon Wellspring. That's how valuable knowing your calcs are. I knew that I could 2-hit KO, but without it, you couldn't. But this is just a sample EV spread, for example. And then, you can run lower special attack because you have the specs. You need the speed to outspeed other flutter mains that aren't booster energy, so that way you're hitting first. Since you're locking yourself into one move, it's more important that you hit the Moonblast before they do, or you can even take them out with the Shadow Ball. So that's why we creep the speed here. You go to the second flutter main set, and just to make this not confusing, I'm going to put Icy in. This will be the booster speed flutter main set. See how low the speed stat is here? That's because we will have the booster speed item activating and boosting our speed. We were able to identify that this is going to be a support Pokemon with something like Icy Wind and Taunt or something. And so we can lower the speed down, giving us more universal bulk all around and more special attack. We needed the more special attack because this is a timid nature, so it's not going to get the boost in special attack, but speed. So you were able to invest more EVs to bump this number up. Notably, this Flutter main is hitting 160 with its special attack, and then you have the specs. This Flutter main's hitting 169, but it doesn't have the damage boost. So notice how these EVs are kind of correlate with each other in a way. Then you have the defense stats to live the Sucker Punch, and you can live like a Meteor Beam and stuff on this set. Very, very nice. We move over to the last Booster Energy set, and this one's just going to be the straight out, I'm doing damage, baby set. This is a Booster Special Attack set. Notice the speed. We want to speed creep other Flutter mains, even Booster Speed ones, so that's why you invest a lot in speed. This is where I'm going to teach you about what's called a bump. You get the 116 in HP and 76 in defense to live that Sucker Punch. Notice that's very important. So the next tip I would say is definitely look in the metagame, see what can threaten your Pokemon. It does take some time, but I promise this will help you out. So we live the Sucker Punch, and then you just go 116 on the special attack. Now I'm going to show you guys something here. To choose where to stop this special attack, you really want to keep an eye on this number, be at level 50, and apply your nature. Since we are modest, if you drop this down, that's 185. Once we move it up, it's 187. This means for the amount of EVs you invest, you're actually getting 2 points. So that's just free value. This also occurs at 36, where if you go 28 to 36, 174 to 176. So that's why sometimes you'll see a modest Flutter with 36 specs, but that's generally rare, unless they have a lot of redirection support. So this is how I chose to choose my EVs. I first identified what the job of the Pokemon was. Then I went in and seen what I need to defensively live. How can I maximize value by getting these bumps? And then I went from there. The last two examples, I chose two physical Pokemon that operate completely different. You'll notice that Iron Hands has a 76 attack, and the Roaring Moon is max 252. But why is that? Iron Hands is basically there to soak up damage, create rotations, fake out, live hits, and Drain Punch, right? They always carry the Drain Punch, and they recover 50% of the damage dealt. So the reason this is valuable is I just went to the first bump, right? 68, just move it up to 76. You see there, 2 points. So we're maximizing efficiency. You're getting an extra point for free. Then you just dump some in HP to help it out. Max, or, you can go 236, but max out that Spadef because it has such a low stat right here. Since Iron Hands is not really a Pokemon that you want to be worrying about speed, I was able to give, the help a little bit more on the defense, where if you notice, all the Flutter mains have 4 in special defense. This was because they don't need any help in special defense. 135 is already an insane stat. So on the weaker stats, I generally add more. For example, 68 Spadef, 252 versus the defense 108. Generally, speed is king on these Pokemon, but this is a slower Pokemon, so you don't need the speed, so you're able to bulk it up some more, since its job is simply to soak up damage and do trades with like Drain Punch. Roaring Moon functions completely differently. This is just an acrobatics set that gets a power double if the user has no held item. Since the booster energy procs, it boosts the damage. All this thing really wants to do is come in the game, click Dragon Dance, click Acrobatics, and win. So this Pokemon's job is completely different than Iron Hands. Even though they're two physical Pokemon, that's why I'm saying you need to identify the job of the Pokemon, then you can start EV spreading your Pokemon. So this is just here to do damage. So we're max attack, maxing it all the way out, adamant. And then you want just enough speed to do your calculations and speed creep certain Pokemon in the meta with the booster energy applied with a Dragon Dance, right? Dragon Dance raises user attack and speed by 1. That's why this is so important to invest speed. You could drop some more speed if you wanted to because the Dragon Dance, you would have to do your calculations into what you want to outspeed after you get a +1 up with some support. And just a little bit of HP just specifically of certain interactions. Number 2 is study limitless tours. And yes, I've said this one before and I'll say it again. This is a very, very valuable tip. It's happened in the past. It just happened early this season and it will happen again. Keep a close eye on the tournaments and the trends that occur. Number 1, and this tip is controversial, but it's arguably one of the most important. Use good Pokemon. I know this will upset some of you, but please allow me to explain myself. I understand that using your favorite Pokemon is fun, but when you look at Pokemon as a whole, it's a game of numbers and there is a stable metagame around it. I'm not saying you can't use your favorite Pokemon, but you need to address your overall goal in VGC. If this applies to you, don't worry, I was just like you. I refused to use good Pokemon, stating they were cheesy, overplayed, too broken, or even just boring. The hard pill to swallow for me at least was losing felt terrible with the best tools. It was really hard to look at myself in the mirror knowing I was playing Tornadus Urshifu and losing. It was also very hard on me mentally, constantly going against the grain, trying to reinvent the wheel to no avail. Using these Pokemon will give you two things: better tools for you to take advantage of and insight on how to counter them, as using them will invite your opponents to bring the counters to your practice matchups. I'd like to further iterate that I'm not saying you can't use creative Pokemon, by the way. Take 45 Mice, for example, using this very unique team to top a regional. However, if you notice, there are also good meta Pokemon to help structure the backbone of this team. The last tip I'm going to give you is the most important tip. This is the tip of all tips. This tip is a bonus tip, but it's definitely worth your time. It's a little cliche, but have fun and take breaks often. Now, I know that's just what everybody says, but it is so true. I have had more success taking breaks and having fun with the game than I have when I'm going against the grain or hating on the game or hating on certain meta Pokemon. It's tough at times. These metas can be very demanding, but I am telling you, VGC player to VGC player, I've found so much success in just utilizing some of these broken Pokemon and realizing that you can have fun with them. This is a video game at the end of the long conversation. My main goal in this channel is just to help you guys succeed, but I also want you to enjoy the process. Slow down, smell the roses, keep practicing, and I'll see you on the next video.